everyone, and welcome back to Radio Tony Everyday Business. We have a wonderful show planned for you today, and just so you know, we've got a special guest all the way from Paris. Before I introduce you to our fabulous guest today, I want to tell you a little bit about Jean-Yves Leguet. He owns an authentic Chinese company, and he has specific Chinese expertise with C-suite experience and business development, marketing, strategy, and sales in China and Asia for over the last 10 years. He is achievement and action orientated and has led and developed businesses across borders and cultures. So I'm an Australian speaking to an amazing French guy who has a business in China. How wonderful is the world that we live in? So after co-founding Emotion Digital, Jean-Yves had the ambition to continue to build the bridges between China and the Western world by helping customers to perform in China and better understand their particular digital environment. He is co-founder and CEO of Emotion Digital, an agency located in Shanghai and Paris, which helps Western brands get into the Chinese market through WeChat marketing. And I'm going to ask Jean-Yves all about WeChat marketing in our interview today. With over 10 years of direct experience in China as a top executive, he brings his expertise to his agency and clients, helping them leverage the power of selling to China. Hello, Jean-Yves. How are you today?
Hello, good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here tonight.
I'm so grateful
in
that
Paris is a morning, but I know in
Yes,
Australia,
of course, it's
it is
morning
evening.
time in Paris, evening
Yes.
time in Australia, and when this goes to air, it'll likely be lunchtime in the USA. Jean-Yves, let's start
Okay.
at the beginning. Tell us about the
Yes.
journey you've had that led you to this point in time where you're a Frenchman working in a Chinese business environment.
So I was previously working for a middle-sized international company, headquartered in France. In that company, the name was called Kerneos. I have been working for 10 years in China, leading the Asian zone for the company as a local VP, and I was living in Beijing.
Oh.
I have developed new markets and make the company the leader in China in that field, even if we have more than 30 competitors, Chinese competitors. So I enjoy a lot working in China for all this time, developing the business successfully. But I must say that it has not been so easy. In fact, every day was another day. Lots of challenges to face, lots of crises to face. But finally, we have been able to grow over years business. And it was quite interesting because being expatriate at that time in China, I had quite a lot of autonomy and can be a real entrepreneur, even if I was working for an international company.
That's
after
really
9 years
interesting.
in China, yes, after 9 years in China, I came back to France to take a new position in a strategy for the same company. But a big change happened at the time. My company was acquired by a bigger group, also another French international group. At that time, a lot of change happened, some changes in the top management. I got another position in charge of operations. It was quite a good position, but so different because less exposed to business, I will say, less freedom as well to develop things. Not really a position to be an entrepreneur. So I did make the decision at that time to leave the company. It was in 2019. Because I like very much business development. I like create new business stories. And I was missing the time in China. Then last year, it was just before the start of the pandemic, in fact, I decided to co-found my current company, so Emotion Digital. It is a company to help Western companies to be visible on the Chinese market through digital solutions. We are two co-founders, myself and my Chinese partner. So we are in both locations, as you mentioned at my introduction, so in Shanghai and in Paris. In fact, we take over another existing company, a Chinese company, which was already existing since 2014.
Yes.
But it was only for the Chinese market. It was not for international customers. It was more a kind of a web studio. So we make the pivot and change the scope of the company. So I believe China has a lot of opportunities for Western companies to expand, to develop their market in China. I believe that I can help Western companies to enter China market and expand.
Jean-Yves,
This is my story.
How difficult was it as a French national grasping the cultural and language difficulties in the beginning? Was that quite challenging, or did you enjoy that challenge?
As you say, enter China market is not so easy. There are a lot of complexity, cultural barriers, not only
Yes.
the language, but I found the main barrier, in fact, is culture.
Yes.
And it is also a very competitive market. A lot of opportunities, but a lot of competition.
So, Jean-Yves,
So what I decided, yes.
sorry, the marketplace in China is really quite massive, isn't it? And we in the Western world don't often understand how it is to do business in China. And it can be difficult to get into the Chinese marketplace. How did you do that? How did you enter the Chinese marketplace? And how can other small businesses do the same thing? Is that where Emotion Digital comes in?
I would say maybe the story of Emotion Digital is a bit different because we have acquired an existing Chinese business in marketing. Then we made a pivot. So initially the company was only for Chinese companies, and now the main activity is for Western companies looking to enter Chinese markets. Also, we are a mixed team, Chinese and myself, French.
Yes.
So this is quite helpful, of course. All the team in Shanghai is Chinese. Then it helps a lot to understand the Chinese market, to understand the environment, the Chinese culture, to know the latest trends in terms of consumer behaviors, marketing trends. So the main challenges when it comes to China for any company is to understand the Chinese culture,
yes,
the Chinese business ways, quite different from Western ways, and also to adapt to the Chinese speed. I always say that China's speed is 7 times Western speed. So this is very important to understand it. You need to move very at a different speed. So for a small, middle-sized company coming to China, we recommend the companies to find a partner to help them avoiding making mistakes at the beginning. And of course, Emotion Digital can be a partner for small, middle-sized company to enter China market. You need a partner to help you define and set up your Chinese business story, to assess the Chinese market, to define the roadmap to enter the China, then implement it in the China market using Chinese language, of course.
Yes.
You need to speak Chinese. You need to use Chinese cultural elements and also Chinese social media for your visibility. Because all is different in China. You cannot copy your Western strategy. It will not work. So if you are a small middle-sized company and you come to your newcomer to China, the best way is to enter through digital marketing and cross-border e-shop if you have some product to sell. I believe it is the most cost-effective way to test and enter the Chinese market. Also, depending on your business, you can have Chinese distributors. This depends on the type of product that you sell. Then later on, you can create your own company in China, have a local sales team, but this is not necessary at the right beginning.
Yes.
To enter China. In all cases, you need to have local eyes and ears in China to be successful.
I see.
Emotion Digital can be the eyes of the customer, the ears of the customer, to listen to what happened in China. This is very important. If not Emotion Digital, you need another partner, or you need your own team in China.
Yeah.
This is really a must to be successful. What I believe.
Jean-Yves, it sounds really quite exciting to have a partner like Emotion Digital to help you get into that Chinese market so that you're not doing it alone, because you've got that extensive experience, the local knowledge, and your extensive business knowledge. So you make quite an impressive partner for those small and medium businesses looking to start doing work in China. Is that my correct understanding?
Yes, I have a lot of experience myself.
Yes.
I've been working in China for an international company in the past. Now with new customers, with my new company. So yes, we have developed a lot of experience of China business. Yes.
Congratulations on that. Jean-Yves, when we spoke recently, we talked about WeChat. And for those of us in the Western world, we may not be familiar with WeChat, but it's massive in China. Can you tell us a bit more about WeChat and how it works?
Yes, so WeChat is really the #1 app in China. We call it the smart app, in fact, because it's more than an application. It's really a full ecosystem.
Oh.
So it's a Chinese multi-purpose messaging, social media, e-commerce, mobile application. From my point of view, it's the most powerful and advanced social network application on the market.
Right.
In terms of users, there is more than 1 billion, I think it's 1.2 billion active users.
Wow.
So it's really one of the most popular social applications in the world, because used by the Chinese in China, but as well by the Chinese out of China, in Australia or in Europe or in US. But the popularity of WeChat is largely due to the diverse range of functions in the app compared to many other apps. So you have many functions. You have the messaging function. You can do payment. You have an e-wallet. You have a QR code.
Wow.
You can geo-localize. But you have as well a lot of functions to buy your flight ticket, to pay, order a taxi, pay your bills, order food. And it's as well an app to buy many e-shops.
Yes.
Because it's as well an e-commerce app. Chinese people spend on average 1/3 of their online time on WeChat. So it's really a lot, and 81% of the users spend over 1 hour per day on the app.
Wow.
So just to give you some number. So when you want to be visible in China, you must be on WeChat.
WeChat sounds like it has a massive entry way into the Chinese market. is the app in Chinese and English or all Chinese?
It's mainly Chinese, but as a
Yes.
Western, I remember when I arrived in China many years ago, I use WeChat in English. So,
Oh,
and there is an automatic translation on it. It's not perfect, but at least
wow.
when you receive a message in Chinese, you can get a translation into English, and you can send to your friends a message in English, and they can translate it into Chinese. So it's quite good for communication. But it's
And
true for the e-commerce part. For the business part, everything's in Chinese.
yes.
So
Okay.
because using one of the main use for WeChat is, of course, for business.
Yes.
What we do with our customers, we propose them to become visible, to do business on WeChat. It works for B2B. It works as well for B2C.
Yes.
So usually in Western countries, people are using website to explain who they are, to show their offer.
Yeah.
But in China, people are not using website.
Right.
So Chinese companies are using WeChat as a website.
That's
So it's
fascinating.
very different. So
So,
if you are a company going to China, you
mhm.
must be on WeChat to show your offer. Otherwise, you will never be visible.
That's fascinating. So they don't have access to any of the social media apps that we do in Western society. Their only social media all in one is WeChat. Is that my understanding correct?
It's not only WeChat. This is the main one, and you must be there first. Then, depending on your business, depending on what you want to do, there are many other apps. There is a Weibo, it's a local Twitter, the Chinese Twitter.
Ah.
You have a Xiaohongshu, in Western countries it's called Red, and it's an app more for lifestyle, for beauty
Right.
worlds, cosmetics. You have as well Douyin, and Douyin is a similar TikTok.
Okay.
This one is very similar between Western and Chinese, and you have many other apps depending on which market you are, or depending what is your community. So, but it's true that Western apps do not work in China. You cannot use Google, you cannot use Facebook, you cannot use WhatsApp. You can use with VPN. So you must, if you want to be visible in China, if you're a Western company
It's WeChat.
going on China market, you must be on WeChat, then for sure on Baidu, on Weibo. You need to be on several social media.
That's really fascinating. Janice, you've obviously been working in China long enough now to have some really great tips around succeeding in the China marketplace. So for those of us, those of our listeners today, what are those tips? What are your top tips for working and succeeding in China?
To succeed in China, first of all, you need to be visible on
Yeah.
WeChat. You need to be digitalized, because China is a digital country and also a mobile country. Chinese people check internet only on mobile. Even on B2B, if you are not on WeChat, you do not exist, because WeChat is your website.
I see.
But WeChat will not be enough, as the China market is very fragmented. It's not. It's like a continent, in fact. Areas north of China, south of China are quite different.
Right.
You have a first-tier cities, you have fourth-tier cities, the countryside, and so on. So it's very fragmented. And also, Chinese people are using lots of touching points to make a purchasing decision. It's quite different from Western people. Usually, you need to have more than 10 touching points with Chinese consumers.
Gosh.
For them, at the end, to make a decision. In Western countries, it's about 3 points. So it's quite different. So you need to be on several social media platforms for this reason. So I would say WeChat, of course, then Weibo, Douyin. You can use as well Jiru, which is the local Quora, equivalent to Q&A platform,
Yes.
like Quora. So beyond digital, you will create your brand awareness. This is the first step for any brand who want to enter China market. You need to start building your brand in China to give trust to customers, consumers, buying your products. Branding is really everything in China, and you will build your reputation on Chinese social media. So on the social media, of course, you will share your contents, your brand story, your brand purpose. So it must be, you must using a lot of videos now. It's a very big trend in China to be successful, to be visible. Short videos are better. It's becoming the main form of content in China. Another very important tip, and many companies are forgetting about it, before starting selling, you also need to protect your IP. Make sure that you register your trademark in China.
Right.
So many bad stories have happened. Even for, in fact, big international companies coming in China, they had some troubles. The most famous recent one, it was sport shoes of Michael Jordan. Get a lot of trouble in China. So just to give an example. Then, if you want to test the Chinese market if you have goods to sell in China, for a small company, we advise to start with a cross-border e-commerce. And it is possible to do this on social media platform, like WeChat. So on WeChat, you can do the marketing to be visible, and you can start as well to sell, which is at the end quite cost effective. It really works in China. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't work so much in Western countries, but now in China, it's a very growing trend. It takes about 1 month to set up everything on WeChat, the payment, the process with the customs, logistics, and so on. If the brand belongs to a lifestyle or to beauty market, then maybe you can open a Xiaohongshu account and as a platform with an e-shop integrated with social media. So it's quite convenient to use a platform, WeChat or Xiaohongshu for marketing and for selling, to test the market. Then, if you are successful, after maybe 1 year to 2 years, if you get enough turnover, you can start thinking, develop further, open a shop on traditional e-commerce platforms such as Tmall, Alibaba, equivalent to Amazon, or have partners, distributors in China, and then you can continue to grow. In all what you do in China, what is very important, in fact, as well, is to build a strong, trustable relation with your business partner. Because as I was saying at the beginning, competition is very important. It's very fierce. Some competitors will try to block you, give you a hard time. Then it's very important to build a network around you, trustable network. And a marketing agency can be a partner, can help you on this.
I was just going to say, Jean-Yves, understanding some of those challenges, your first point of call, if you're even thinking about going into the China marketplace, would be to partner firstly with a company like Emotion Digital and you, who has that experience. It sounds like it would not be a good idea to go into the Chinese market without someone like your company to help you at least in the first 12 months. Would that be accurate?
Yes, if you are a small, middle-sized company, you don't want to spend too many resources at the beginning. Set up your company in China, hire local people. And
Yes.
if you are first time in China, it's very difficult to find the right people.
Yes.
So you must partner, yes, with a third party, and Emotion Digital
Yes.
can be one of them, sure.
Yeah. Janice, what's some of the mistakes that companies make trying to enter the Chinese market? I'm guessing that the first mistake would be not partnering with someone who has experience in the Chinese marketplace. What else? What other common mistakes do companies make when trying to enter the Chinese marketplace?
Another typical mistake is that companies just want to copy what they do in Western countries.
Yeah.
Copy their Western strategy. They think that it is the easiest way, of course, sure. For instance, using their own website to try to be visible in China.
Yeah.
But if you use your own website to be visible, it will not work because sometimes just Chinese people cannot open your website, or it will be very slow when people open it from China. And if it's too slow, nobody will.
No good.
Chinese people want things very quick, and they check everything on mobile. So then this for sure will not work. If you open a WeChat account and just copy your Western content and translate it, this will not work as well, because it cannot be. You cannot do the same in China as you do in the Western countries. You need to add Chinese cultural elements. It's very important to give as well lots of content. Chinese people like to read a lot about your brand, about your product.
Yes.
You cannot be short. You need as well to be very quick to interact with the audience.
Yeah.
So you must have people with you to answer very quickly. Otherwise, they will just leave your WeChat app, your account. You will lose your audience. So you need to be quite interactive with the audience. And of course, because China is a social media country, you need to master the Chinese social networks in China, not only using the tools, the app, but you really need to know which one for which content, able to create relationships with customers through groups, building up your community. Because China has a recommendation culture.
Yes.
So you know word of mouth, I guess. So Chinese consumers trust recommendation from friends, from family, influencers, much more than we do in Western countries. Another reason, strong visibility on many Chinese social media is so important.
Yes.
Another typical mistake is to see e-commerce and as an efficient way of doing shopping. Usually Western people see e-commerce as an efficient way for doing shopping.
Yes.
But in China, is not at all the purpose.
Right.
So e-commerce is first of all an experience. And the Chinese consumers want to enjoy this experience. So going on an e-shop or going on e-commerce platform should be fun, enjoyable, and be very interesting experience. If you just show the efficient way, you will not be able to capture your audience and get customers and make people purchasing.
Yeah.
So the brands must create a narrative around their product, encourage potential customers to follow along with them on this journey, and forming an action-provoking experience. In China, even more important to tell stories to your customers that will impact them. So of course, the stories need to be very impactful from Chinese point of view, contains some Chinese culture elements.
Yes.
Another, and maybe it will be the last mistakes I will give, is that very common mistake is that many companies, and I can see in Europe, they think that China is cheap.
Oh,
That is not true at all. China is really not a cheap country, at least for marketing, at least for a company to enter China, developing visibility. Many reasons why it's not cheap, because you need to have multi-channel approach. You cannot be
yes,
only on WeChat, but you need to be on Weibo, you need to be on different
platforms.
social media.
Mhm.
You need to engage your audience at multiple touch points throughout the customer journey. You need to spend money on ads, advertisements, on
Yes.
KOLs, key opinion leaders. So at the end, marketing in China is more expensive than marketing in Europe
Oh, yeah.
or in the other Western countries. And it takes time to grow the brand awareness,
Yes.
to get sales. So you need to be patient.
Yes.
And if you are patient, it takes more time, and at the end, it's more money to put on the table.
Yeah.
China is not a cheap country. When you want to enter in it, you need to be ready to be patient, to have resource, to plan your budget over time. And it's true that at the end, if you are successful, it will be a really big story.
Yeah.
China can give you a lot of opportunities.
So, Jean-Yves, knowing all of those challenges and how your company, Emotion Digital, helps with lots of those challenges, how worthwhile is it for businesses looking to enter the marketplace if they take into consideration all of the things that we've spoken about in using the apps, understanding the culture, having a Chinese partner or at least a company like Emotion Digital to help you? How worthwhile is it for companies and businesses to get it right and enter that Chinese marketplace?
So if I take my journey, my experience
Yes.
in China, I would say my experience maybe is a bit different from many other companies, because my situation was different. I have a long Chinese experience myself, working for international company. I know China business well. I know how to network in China, and I have a big local network.
Yes.
So this makes things easier to set up my own company. Also, I have a co-founder, Chinese, so this helps a lot. Of course, it's a big advantage. So I would say that for a company who do not have experience in China, who don't have a Chinese team inside the company, it's very important to have a Chinese partner if you want to,
Yes.
to expand to China. This is very a key. Don't go China yourself alone, because you will make a lot of mistakes. You will lose your investment at the beginning, and then it will not be a successful story. So you must have a partner, Chinese partner, with you to start building your story in China. And if you have, I would say then China is really a country with a great opportunities for any Western brand. So I really encourage small middle-sized company to enter China market. You can be successful not only if you are a big company, but you can be as well successful if you are a small company. If you are a niche brand, the key is really to be visible in China and to have a good offer, and then it's possible to build your Chinese story.
Yeah, yeah. Jean-Yves, for those of our audience listening today, they can connect with you, and we're going to put the link, attach it to this video when it goes live, and you'll be able to connect with Emotion Digital and talk to Jean-Yves and the team about his experience and how Emotion Digital can help you leverage Jean-Yves' extensive experience and his team and perhaps enter that Chinese marketplace. We've heard today that there are a few differences and challenges, but that's why Jean-Yves has set up Emotional Digital to help you enter that Chinese marketplace and have a partner with extensive knowledge and understanding about the marketplace, the culture, and the language. Jean-Yves, I'm delighted that you had the time to speak to me today. We've had a few challenges in setting up the interview because I'm in Australia, Jean-Yves is in Paris, and we want to go to the worldwide market with Jean-Yves' expertise around entering the Chinese marketplace. And for those of you listening today, we will put all of Jean-Yves and Emotion Digital contact details in the comments that relate to this video. Jean-Yves, thank you so much for coming on Radio Tony Everyday Business today. I've really appreciated your immense insight into the Chinese marketplace, and I'm very grateful that you've shared your knowledge and understanding with my audience today. Jean-Yves, once more, your company is Emotion Digital. You have, you're obviously French, but you have a Chinese partner, and your expertise is entering the Chinese marketplace as a Western company or business. Anything that you'd like to pass on to the audience in your final words today, Jean-Yves?
Thank you, Tony. It was my pleasure to be part of your show today. You give a good summary of what Emotional Digital can bring to any companies, a Western company looking to enter China market. And for your audience,
Yes.
we will give for the first people register. I believe you will give the link
Yes.
in your platform. We will give a free consulting call.
Oh,
30 minutes
wow.
free consulting call to first people who will be able to register. This is my gift for your audience.
Thank you so much. That's an amazing offer because I'm quite sure a lot of people listening to the show today will be very interested to talk to you about your experience and how you might be able to help them leverage an entry point into the Chinese marketplace. That, my wonderful audience, is our lot for this week. Jean-Yves, thank you so much for your sharing your knowledge and wisdom with the audience today. Just make sure that you look at the notes that relate to this interview because Jean-Yves' details will be there and how to connect with him. And please, if you've got any thoughts about entering the marketplace in China, do not do it alone. Make sure you partner with Emotion Digital and the team and get it done right the first time. Don't do it alone. Make sure you have a partnership with a company, a reputable company like Jean-Yves' company, Emotion Digital. And that, my friends, is our lot for this week. Bye for now.